Chapter 11 Kill. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 11, Kill. Seeing the 300-year-old black water turtle, Yao felt a sliver of hope. If I can get them fighting, I can slip away in the confusion. Yao darted past the Xian Shui turtle, but then something unexpected happened. The 300-year-old turtle smelled the animal heart powder, just like the 700-year-old one, and it went berserk. Now both turtles were chasing him down. Crap. Am I just stuck in a loop? Panic set in. One black water turtle was already a nightmare to outrun, but now with a second one on his tail, his chances of escape were next to zero. I guess I have to stand my ground and take them on. The black water turtles had the advantage in close combat because of their size. If he got bogged down in a brawl, he'd never get away. That means I only get one shot at this. Yao took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. In a crisis, you need a clear head to assess the situation and find an opening. The problem is, the Xian Shui turtle's weak spot is in the center of its underbelly. How am I supposed to flip it over? I can't exactly slide under it. He couldn't just slide underneath like he was delivering breakfast. The turtle's shell was too low. As the chase dragged on, Yao's energy was rapidly draining. He was already down 40%. Shoot, I've only got 60% left. The strongest bajabang I can pull off needs 40%. The longer this goes on, the less likely I am to make it out of here. He glanced back and saw that the 700-year-old turtle was still gaining on him, while the 300-year-old one was falling behind. An idea started to form. He adjusted his course, tracing a perfect circle through the air. He maneuvered the two beasts onto the same line, putting himself directly between them. He was facing the 300-year-old Xian Shui turtle, with the 700-year-old one right behind him. But now they were only a few feet away, instead of a dozen. He could feel the hot breath of the turtle behind him. Life or death, it ends here. Yao channeled his energy, faced the 300-year-old turtle bearing down on him, and leaped into the air with all his might. He jumped higher than ever before. He landed squarely on the turtle's back, then pushed off again. The turtle's body sank like a balloon in the water, forced under by his weight. Buoyancy would push it back up, but not before he got to where he needed to be. Both Yao and the turtle were moving fast, and landing on the creature's back required perfect timing. One wrong move and he'd fail. It was a risky move, but in his desperate situation, Yao saw no other way. He'd also planned for failure. He'd put extra power into the jump, so even if he missed the shell, he'd still clear the turtle and force the two beasts to collide. Then, while they were fighting, he could make his escape. The 700-year-old turtle saw its prey flying forward and charged without thinking. When the 300-year-old turtle felt Yao land on its back, its panicked eyes widened as it saw the huge shape barreling toward it. It instinctively pulled its limbs into its shell. With a sickening thud, the larger turtle launched itself off the back of the smaller one, leaving 4 deep hoof prints on its carapace. Now. In a flash, Yao saw his chance. He landed on one foot, using the momentum to spin around, dragging the other foot in an arc across the ground. Then, with both feet planted, he launched himself straight at the turtle above him. Seeing Yao's attack, the Xian Shui turtle suddenly snapped to its senses. It knew that a hit to its weak spot meant certain death. It hurriedly channeled its power, creating a glowing green barrier. Baji, smash, he poured 40% of his energy into his right hand. The moment his fist connected with the barrier, a deafening roar exploded. The shockwave blasted outward, shaking the trees and causing snow to cascade down. A circle of bare ground appeared, with Yao at its center. *ZZZZZ. The barrier shattered. Yao's body was nearing its limit, but he couldn't let up yet. He swung his uninjured left hand, pouring the last 20% of his energy into it. It's over. Yao barely registered the pain as he slammed his fist into the center of the turtle's underbelly. Another cracking sound echoed, and his fist plunged through the turtle's soft flesh, burying his arm up to the elbow. The turtle crashed to the ground, twitching violently before finally going still. The 300-year-old turtle cautiously poked its head out of its shell and saw the gruesome sight before it. It bolted in the opposite direction, moving faster than it had during the chase. Phew! Dai Yao crawled out of the turtle's carcass, the Wuhuan possession lifted. He collapsed on the ground, greedily sucking in air. After a long while, he thought, talk about a close call, that a yellow soul ring, tinged with purple, appeared on the turtle's body. 700-year soul rings. Too bad I can't absorb them. He was still deep inside the dangerous soul beast forest, so he immediately sat down, visualized the green lotus in his mind, and began to meditate. Behind a bare tree, a guard watched the scene in stunned disbelief. What kind of monster is this kid? He wasn't a soul master, but he understood the implications of a 6-year-old killing a 700-year-old turtle, and the techniques Dai Yao used to escape and fight back looked like self-created soul skills, the stuff of legends. A genius. If he survives, he'll figure out what was behind the turtle's frenzy today. And if he finds out about our scheme, my whole family will be ruined. Fear gripped him, he stared at the exhausted Dai Yao, and a dark thought took root. I have no choice. I have to kill him. Hearing a noise nearby, Dai Yao opened his eyes. He'd already recovered half his energy in the short time he'd been meditating. The Qinglian's healing abilities were incredible. The moment he saw the guard, he knew that the turtle's sudden attack was his doing. He had no quarrel with this man. Only the queen had a reason to want him dead. This guard must be one of her pawns. He sensed no soul power in the guard. He was just an ordinary man. Half my strength is enough to take him down, he thought. Dai Yao feigned ignorance, looked at the approaching figure, and asked, what are you doing here, guard? Before the guard could answer, he glanced over the guard's shoulder and exclaimed in surprise, Captain of the Guard. Thanks to 2 readers for their suggestions. There were indeed logical problems in the plot updated yesterday, which have now been corrected. Thank you very much to all the friends who voted. I would like to express my gratitude here. Chapter 12, The 1RD Soul Ring. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 12, The First Soul Ring. Dai Yao didn't just yell Chief Guard for kicks. The captain had to know this guard was here. He was testing the waters. If the captain was in the queen's pocket, hunting soul beasts here would be risky business going forward. To his surprise, the guard actually whipped his head around, looking freaked out. Bingo! Dai Yao seized the moment. He poured what little chi he'd recovered into his legs. The frozen ground cracked like a spiderweb under his feet as he launched himself at the guard like a cannonball. Before the guard could even fully turn, he felt a cold slice across his neck. Then, his world flipped upside down, and his head landed on the ground. Drip, drip, blood trickled down the blade. Dai Yao, breathing hard, gripped the blade in his less injured left hand. He was completely drained, especially his right arm. After channeling 40% of his energy into that Baji Beng strike, his entire arm had gone numb. Good thing he'd used Baji Beng while channeling his spirit, otherwise, his right hand would have been toast. He was running on fumes. He barely had enough strength for that last attack, not even enough to channel his spirit. He wasn't thinking about the throne, the engagement, or the duel. All he wanted was to collapse and rest. An hour later, Dai Yao had recovered slightly. He was just glad to be alive, his hatred for the queen burning brighter than ever. Damn queen! Not only did she skip sending me a soul master to hunt my soul beast, but she also set me up in this beast garden. Sending someone to try and take me out. Just you wait. I'll repay you twice over for today. Thinking about that chi into the feet, lightning fast burst technique, he decided to name it, since I have Baji Beng, this one's Bakubu. Baji Beng was a fighting skill that Xiao Yan had honed over time. Yao Lao also trained Xiao Yan in explosive steps, palm sucking, and other fighting skills. Dai Yao eyed the Xian Shui turtle's corpse. The yellow and purple soul ring began to shimmer, barely visible in the air. If he didn't absorb it, it would vanish. Too bad this 700-year-old soul ring is way past the limit for a first soul ring. Can't absorb it. What a waste. But just as Dai Yao was about to pack up, the green lotus in his mind started glowing. The yellow soul ring, drawn by that light, floated towards him. What the... Is this soul ring glued to me or something? Dai Yao barely had time to be surprised before the ring dove straight into his body. I shouldn't be absorbing this thing, that a jolt of pain shot through him. He quickly crossed his legs and tried to absorb the ring. There was no turning back now. Either he successfully absorbed it, or the ring's raw power would blow him to pieces. Damn it! What is with this Qinglian, and how did it absorb the soul ring? Even absorbing a soul ring at the limit is practically suicide, let alone one that's over the limit by 300 years. Plus, my body's already beat to hell. Absorbing this ring is a death sentence, but he was out of options. He focused on his breathing, calming his racing heart. In a crisis, staying cool was his only shot. A surge of white-hot energy ripped through his body. His insides felt like they were on fire, his whole body like he was submerged in lava. This fiery energy slammed into his dantian, which started spinning. The emptiness within filled again. Under the influence of the ghostly green lotus, this qi slowly morphed into water. Then, the heat blasted into his head, turning into a fiery ring in his mental space. The ring blazed a circle, saw the Qinglian, seemed to recognize something terrifying, and bolted. It spotted the sacred white tiger nearby and immediately swamped it in a sea of fire. The white tiger roared in agony as it burned. Dai Yao screamed in the real world, his bones breaking, his flesh searing. Dai Yao's face turned beet red, then his whole body. His temperature skyrocketed, and steam poured off him. He was practically cooking in his own skin. He was about to explode. Just then, the Qinglian in his mind pulsed with green light, stopping the explosion. The veins in his body were ripped apart by the energy, but as the blue light washed over them, they started healing at an unbelievable rate, but before they could fully heal, they were torn apart again. His veins were stuck in a loop, breaking, healing, breaking, healing. During this process, his body slowly absorbed the energy. Wave after wave of agonizing pain washed over him, but the green light kept him conscious, unable to black out. Eventually, he grew numb to the pain. After what felt like forever, his veins were no longer being damaged. The energy that had been raging through his body vanished without a trace. The sacred white tiger in his mind seemed reborn from the ashes, its bright, copper-bell eyes shining, its white fur even whiter. The flames shrank, finally condensing into a yellow soul ring orbiting the tiger. When the yellow ring glowed, a white shield flickered into existence around the white tiger, the first soul skill, white tiger protective barrier. Dai Yao forced his eyes open. He realized he'd lost even more weight. He chuckled weakly, I'm practically skin and bones now. But the result was staggering. His first soul ring was 700 years old. Unheard of in the history of Douluo continent. Well, not really, there were others out there even more crazy than him. On top of that, his physical strength had jumped up significantly, several times stronger than before. The soul ring gave a great bonus. Also, under the Qinglian's influence, the constant tearing and repairing made his body tougher. Before, he could handle up to 20% of the energy without getting hurt. Now, he could push to 40% without a scratch. If he got injured, he could probably even handle 60%. When he checked his dantian, he saw something bizarre. After absorbing the soul ring's energy, the filled-up dantian, well, it should be filled with gaseous soul power, but it was starting to transform around the Qinglian, turning into a liquid. He could feel that the energy packed into this liquid soul power was many times greater than gaseous soul power, but people without a Qinglian still had gaseous soul power. Which meant Dai Yao's soul power was several times denser than a regular soul master's at the same level. Then, it hit him. Does this mean my training will take several times longer than everyone else's? That the advantages of liquid soul power were clear, but slowing down his training speed would seriously delay getting his next soul ring. As a prince, speed was everything. If he wasn't progressing fast, he'd be at an even bigger disadvantage in the fight for the throne. But the Qinglian could speed up his training, so, if it could offset the downside of the liquid soul power, it wouldn't affect him too much. Chapter 13 Preparation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 13, Getting Ready, *thump, *, the sound echoed. Dai Yao slammed into an ancient Xian Shui turtle, a beast easily over 7 centuries old, a shimmering white barrier sprang up, momentarily halting the turtle's charge, but it shattered within seconds. The Xian Shui turtle lunged, but Dai Yao used explosive step, dodging the attack. The turtle roared, frustrated. For the past 2 days, this pesky kid had been invading its territory, constantly annoying it. Each time the barrier broke, the kid would suddenly become lightning fast, evading every attack and escaping. Tired of being outmaneuvered, the turtle stopped chasing. Defeated, it just huffed white vapor from its nostrils. "Thanks, big guy." Dai Yao called out, chuckling. That white tiger body barrier is still too weak to withstand the Xian Shui turtle's full force. Good thing I didn't fight this thing head-on when I got my soul ring. One direct hit would have shattered my bones. Now that he had his first soul ring, he needed to prepare for the duel with Dai Mubai. That's why he came to the royal beast garden and picked a 700-year-old turtle for sparring. His soul power was now at level 11. The soul ring's powerful energy was partially absorbed, and part of it liquefied, preventing a higher level gain. He now had 3 skills: the defensive white tiger body barrier, the offensive baji bang, and the explosive step for movement. He found real combat far more helpful than boring training. Fighting the Xian Shui turtle helped him master his new skills. Initially, the turtle would break through the white tiger body barrier and strike before he could activate explosive step, resulting in broken bones. But Qinglian's potent healing ability mended the damage overnight. The next day, he'd face the turtle again, good as new. The Xian Shui turtle, once enraged by his presence, was now just irritated. After a few days of this, I've gotten pretty good with these skills. Time to head back. He packed and retraced his steps. On the way, he spotted the captain of the guard. Remembering the assassination attempt, Dai Yao gave the man a knowing look. The captain was clearly on edge. Dai Yao's gaze made him sweat and his scalp prickle. "Prepare the carriage. I'm returning to the palace," Dai Yao said, choosing not to make trouble. The upcoming duel was his focus. A day and a night later, Dai Yao was back at the cold palace. His third uncle was already waiting by the gate. "Uncle 3. You've grown since getting the soul ring, but you're still too thin. You need to eat more." Dai Hengyu had been waiting since receiving the news. "So, how old was your first soul ring?" "Close to 400 years, Dai Yao replied, hesitating. He didn't want to reveal the true age. A 700-year-old first soul ring was unheard of, and he couldn't explain how he managed to absorb it. Bringing up the subject could expose Qinglian, so, he fudged the truth. 400 years, impressive. Dai Hengyu clapped him on the shoulder, surprised. He'd guessed Dai Yao would get a ring worth 200 to 300 years at most. Don't get cocky. The other princes all have first soul rings 400 years old. This just means you're in the game now. Dai Hengyu warned. He sighed. The queen found out about your soul ring last night. She pressured the emperor to schedule your duel for tomorrow morning. No time to prepare. They really want me dead. Dai Yao scoffed. They knew he got his ring yesterday, so they figured he wouldn't have time to master his new skills. That way, he would have no chance of winning. But they didn't know that he had been practicing for days and had become proficient with his new skills. It's a dirty trick, but where's the fairness in all this anyway? Dai Hengyu's voice was laced with bitterness. His fists clenched inside his sleeves. He understood the oppressive atmosphere of the White Tiger clan. I won't let you down, third uncle, Dai Yao said with a small smile, hiding his true feelings. The 7-level soul power gap was a real problem. There will be important guests at tomorrow's duel, including the bishop of the Spirit Hall from the capital. Get some rest tonight and give it your all. You might not win, but put up a good fight. Dai Hengyu gave his final words. In his mind, the result was already decided. Unable to focus on training, Dai Yao went to the courtyard, where snow was falling. Tomorrow's duel made him nervous. Dai Mubai was 3 years older, already had 17th level soul power, and had made a name for himself at the Star Luo Royal Academy. No one his age could beat him. The White Tiger spirit, plus his level, made him a formidable opponent. During his time at the academy, he never slacked off. In the original story, he fled to the Tiando Empire after losing hope of claiming the throne. When he became a god, he was the god of war. A second-level god who could fight on par with a first-level god. His combat talent was unmatched. Dai Yao was a twin martial soul, and he also possessed Qinglian. He had the potential to be even more powerful, but right now he needed time to turn potential into power. He needed the opportunity to compete with the queen, if only I had more time, Dai Yao thought. He couldn't help but think back to that night 6 years ago, the day he was born. He remembered being born. Unlike other children, his eyes were already open. He could still recall his mother's gentle voice. Look, his eyes are so bright. Let's call him Yaoer. The woman picked him up and looked at him. Suddenly, other women burst into the room, screaming. Dai Yao watched as they choked his mother, her struggles echoing through the cold palace. As her strength faded, her arms fell limp. The scene was burned into Dai Yao's memory. Mother, don't worry. I'll make the queen pay. And tomorrow, I'll take something from her. Dai Yao was determined. He would reveal his twin martial spirits, and no matter the cost, he would win. Chapter 14: The Tip of the Needle versus the Awn of Wheat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 14: The Needle's Point versus the Wheat's Bristle. Day 2, Royal Arena. The arena centerpiece was a circular platform, 100 meters across, surrounded by spectator stands. Today was set to be the most exciting day the Star Luo royal family had seen in years. Ever since their ally, the Clear Sky School, withdrew from the world stage, the Star Luo Empire had been focused on recovery. Now, 2 of its princes would duel for a marriage contract, electrifying both the Dai and Zhu families. The White Tiger family revered their White Tiger spirit. The 2 princes embodied the peak of their family's spirit power. This duel offered a glimpse into the might of top-tier beast spirits. Descendants from both families flocked to witness the event. On the high platform sat 5 elders of the council and the current Zhu family queen, but the central, grand seat remained empty. The Star Luo Emperor himself was absent. After all, this was just a duel between the 3rd and 4th princes, not the definitive battle for the throne, hardly worthy of his attention. Besides the families, other major forces were present. Bishop Ferdinand of the Spirit Hall, for example, never missed a royal spectacle. In the arena, a figure in gold stood proudly. He was dressed lavishly, with a golden shawl and flowing hair, his eyes radiating arrogance. He stood like a spear, radiating confidence. His handsome face turned many heads. So that's the 3rd prince, Dai Mubai. The White Tiger bloodline certainly produces some lookers, Bishop Ferdinand said. His plump figure lounged in his chair, his eyes half closed, and he yawned. Hearing the bishop praise her son, the queen merely chuckled, seemingly detached. The 5th elder simply snorted, clearly bored. Bishop Ferdinand was like a persistent weed at any royal event. The White Tiger family found him incredibly irritating, but as a representative of the Spirit Hall, they couldn't simply turn him away. He kept to himself, watching without interference. There was nothing to be wary of. Yet the 5th elder always felt a hidden meaning behind his smile, a secret that grated on his nerves. The duel's opponent is the 4th prince, but I haven't heard of him, Bishop Ferdinand remarked, a sly grin on his face. The 4th prince only recently awakened his spirit, the 5th elder replied. Oh. Just awakened, and already has his first spirit ring? Does that mean he possesses innate full spirit power? Ferdinand turned to the queen, a spark of interest in his eyes. The 5th elder glared at Bishop Ferdinand. He tried to keep Dai Yao's innate full spirit power a secret from the queen, but Ferdinand had revealed it. He hesitated, then shot a cold glare at the queen, gritting his teeth. Yes, he was born with full spirit power. Humph. The queen scoffed, displeased with the 5th elder's behavior. Even more infuriating was that Dai Mubai had been present at the spirit awakening and hadn't informed her. Mubai, you're preoccupied with Weiss and probably have some misunderstandings about me, but failing to report something this important. If you win this duel, fine. But if you lose... The stands were packed, but one side of the arena was conspicuously empty. The crowd grew restless. Where's the fourth prince? Is he chickening out? He's only just got his spirit ring. There's no way he can beat the third prince. He'd be smart to just forfeit. Dai Mubai, standing on the platform, sneered, "This is boring. He knows I want to teach him a lesson, and he won't even show." He called to the fifth elder in the stands, "Elder, he's not coming. Can we just declare the outcome?" Just then, the crowd erupted in murmurs, all eyes turning toward the source of the commotion. "The fourth prince is here," the onlookers parted, creating a path. A slender figure walked toward them, drawing everyone's attention. He was thin, less impressive than Dai Mubai. His hair lacked luster, like straw. The crowd's reactions were mixed: doubt, surprise, disdain. But the figure seemed unfazed by their stares. He stood tall, a confident smile on his thin face. Meeting Dai Mubai's scornful gaze, he took a deep breath, leaped lightly, and landed on the platform. This kid has character, the fifth elder thought. After Dai Yao's spirit awakened, he had researched Dai Yao's background. Having a firm belief and ignoring other people's opinion was essential for any strong fighter. He was prepared for Dai Yao's defeat. Even if the princes crippled him, he would still arrange for Dai Yao to marry women from the Zhu family and raise up some descendants. Dai Yao stood on the platform, lacking supporters, his back looking lonely. Dai Mubai mocked, "Thought you were too scared to show up. If it were the first or second prince, I wouldn't dare, but since it's you, Dai Mubai, why wouldn't I?" Dai Yao retorted. "You've got some nerve. Let's see if your strength matches your talk." Dai Mubai's lips curled into a sneer. He no longer needed his mother's instructions to be ruthless. Dai Yao was about to learn a harsh lesson. With both contestants present, a host announced, "Silence in the stands, please. Avoid disrupting the duel. No blades or hidden weapons are allowed. Falling off the platform means defeat. Voluntarily surrendering also means defeat. Any objections?" "No," the two said in unison, their eyes locked. "Let the duel begin." The noisy stands fell silent, every eye fixed on the platform. As soon as the words were spoken, Dai Mubai crouched, legs bent, his arm muscles bulging, straining his shirt. The masonry beneath his feet cracked. He lunged at Dai Yao with unstoppable force, like a blade. The distance closed rapidly. "You're not even using your spirit. Do you really underestimate me that much?" Dai Yao thought. The tall figure charged, and Dai Yao could feel the power behind Dai Mubai's fist, even from afar. "If you're not activating your spirit, neither will I. Let's test my raw strength." His body had the boost of the spirit ring and the transformation of Qinglian. He was sure he could contend with Dai Mubai without the use of spirits. Chapter 15 Gap. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 15, The Divide. Dai Mubai raised an eyebrow when he saw Dai Yao pull back his fist, preparing to strike again. Even though he looked down on Dai Yao, he never took a fight lightly. He was confident he could win without even using his White Tiger martial soul. After all, the White Tiger's first soul skill, White Tiger Body Barrier, was purely defensive. Dai Yao planted a foot and charged. To everyone watching, it looked like an ant taking on an elephant. "Atta boy!" Dai Yao's courage seemed to amplify instead of diminishing, which earned him a sliver of respect from Dai Mubai. He loved a good fight, and he hated cowards. They closed the distance, and their fists, one large, one small, collided head-on. The crowd gasped. Thwack! Both felt like they'd been struck by lightning, and they stumbled backward, grimacing in pain. Dai Mubai took one step back, while Dai Yao staggered back 4 steps before regaining his balance. Dai Mubai stared at Dai Yao, stunned. He'd felt the raw power in that small fist, and it was nearly equal to his own. He's only 6, and he's already almost as strong as me. How terrifying will he be when he reaches my age? Dai Mubai thought, shocked. He now saw Dai Yao as a legitimate opponent, and his earlier contempt vanished. He'd thought this duel would be a walk in the park, a simple formality before marrying Zhu Zhuqing, but Dai Yao was proving him wrong. Well, the fourth prince isn't bad at all. His strength is almost up to par with the third prince, Bishop Ferdinand said with a smirk, watching the two in the arena. The queen, however, no longer looked so relaxed. Her face tightened as she watched the fight, saying nothing. The crowd buzzed as Dai Mubai stepped back to the edge of the platform. Abandoning his attack, he massaged his aching right arm and rolled his neck, popping a few vertebrae. His strong, determined face was now serious. He bowed slightly toward Dai Yao and said, "Dai Mubai, a 17-year-old attack-type soul master, at your service." He might be a rebel in many aspects, but he took fighting seriously. Respect your opponent, respect yourself. Dai Yao's arm was also throbbing, but it had become somewhat resistant to the pain after practicing the Bajiquan fist technique so many times. He took a moment to recover. He clasped his hands together, eyes burning with fierce determination. "Dai Yao, an 11th level soul master, at your service." 2 bursts of white light erupted from their bodies, and within the light, fierce and domineering auras bloomed. Martial soul enhancement, that the audience gasped. The Dai family children, in particular, felt the white tiger spirit deeply, a primal fear hammering at their hearts, but what shocked them even more was the pair of white wings sprouting from Dai Yao's back. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as they speculated about Dai Yao's martial soul. Dai Yao had activated the second stage of his martial soul right from the start, which showed the magnitude of the challenge ahead. Failure wasn't an option, and he would use whatever it takes to win. What kind of martial soul is that? Bishop Ferdinand lost his lazy demeanor. His eyes widened. He calls it the Holy White Tiger martial soul, the fifth elder replied coolly. Bishop Ferdinand suppressed his surprise. He'd never heard of such a martial soul, and its power was incredible. Perhaps only the angel martial souls from the spirit hall could compare. We can't let this kid live. The bishop thought. If Dai Yao grew stronger, he'd become a huge threat to the spirit hall. But then he remembered the traditions of the Star Luo Empire and relaxed slightly. Even with a powerful martial soul, it's just potential. How can it compare to the eldest prince, who is already a soul master? The loser in the throne competition has no chance of survival. It's still a pity, such a powerful martial soul. Two figures stood facing each other, both radiating power and intensity. I have to admit, you're a genius. At your age, I definitely wouldn't have stood a chance. But today, I have a reason to defeat you, Dai Mubai said, almost wistfully. Funny, I also have every reason to beat you, Dai Yao replied with a smile. Both activated their yellow soul ring. When Dai Mubai's martial soul took hold, Dai Yao felt a clear pressure, and his soul power seemed to flow less smoothly. Then let me show you that the difference between us isn't just our soul power. Dai Mubai lunged forward, his palms like tiger claws, aiming for Dai Yao with incredible force. So fast, the wind whipped around Dai Yao, and he realized the power and speed of his opponent. He didn't expect an attack-type soul master to be this quick. He barely managed to cross his arms in defense. But the blow felt strangely soft. Gotcha. The first blow was a feint. The real attack came from Dai Mubai's other hand. His fist slammed into Dai Yao's ribs, right below his armpit. A direct hit would have incapacitated Dai Yao instantly. Oh, crap. Dai Yao thought. His first soul ring lit up. White tiger protective barrier. A white shield enveloped Dai Yao just as Dai Mubai's fist connected, creating a dull boom like a struck bell. The barrier held, but it drained a huge amount of soul power. Dai Yao seized the opportunity to retreat. Even with minimal contact, he felt the gap in real combat experience between them. Dai Mubai was even more surprised. Dai Yao continued to surprise him. He had planned to defeat Dai Yao cleanly, and he was close. But Dai Yao had unleashed his soul skill at the last second. How can someone who just obtained a soul ring use soul skills so easily? Is he really that much of a genius? Dai Mubai thought. He analyzed Dai Yao's stance, planning his next series of attacks. The white tiger protective barrier has to be draining your soul power. Let's see how many times you can use your 11th level soul power to perform soul skills. Dai Yao hadn't even regained his footing when Dai Mubai charged again. Is this another feint? The thought crossed Dai Yao's mind, but he hesitated for a split second. Dai Mubai's palm slammed into him at the same time. He scrambled to defend, absorbing the raw power from his opponent, but again, Dai Mubai came at him with the same attack, aiming for the ribs. This time, it was a feint. Dai Yao made a mistake in judgment, leaving himself vulnerable. Chapter 16 Self-Created Soul Skills. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Let's see you defend against this. If you try that white tiger barrier again, a few attacks will drain your soul power. Dai Mubai taunted. Dai Yao was forced to use the white tiger barrier again to block Dai Mubai's onslaught. It was a one-sided beatdown, Dai Mubai completely dominating. Despite Dai Yao's comparable strength and speed, he lacked combat experience, letting Dai Mubai dictate the fight. Unable to gain control, Dai Yao couldn't mount a real offense. Dai Yao possessed raw power, but lacked the skills to use it effectively. The fourth prince can't stop him, just relying on his first soul skill to hang in there. Once his soul power is gone, he's done for, one spectator observed, matter-of-factly. I'm telling you, there's a 3-year age gap. It's not so easy to turn the tables. Gotta give it to the fourth prince, though. Just got his soul ring and he's already holding his own against the third prince. Someone praised Dai Yao. The audience buzzed, convinced the outcome was decided. Time was on Dai Mubai's side. The queen's face was a mask, hiding her thoughts. She'd come to see a decisive victory, Dai Mubai crushing Dai Yao, humiliating him completely. She intended to make that woman pay 100-fold for the humiliation she once inflicted on her son. The fact that Dai Mubai couldn't finish it quickly, but instead was getting dragged into a messy brawl, soured the queen's mood. Even winning would be ugly, but Dai Mubai wasn't feeling comfortable either. Even though it looked like he was winning, after the first couple of hits, he wasn't doing any real damage, and Dai Yao had only used the white tiger barrier twice. From the high platform, the fifth elder watched intently. Even though Dai Yao can't counterattack, his footwork isn't as clumsy anymore. He's starting to adapt to Dai Mubai's attacks. He marveled at Dai Yao's talent, then felt a pang of regret. But it's too late. After using that first soul skill twice, how much soul power does he have left? The third prince hasn't even used his yet, and he's already at level 17, way higher than Dai Yao. Once he runs out of juice and the martial soul possession wears off, the third prince will wipe the floor with him. The fifth elder's hand trembled as he stroked his beard, his complex emotions finally resolving into a sigh. Bishop Ferdinand, leaning back in his seat, looked calm but inwardly rejoiced. What a bunch of dummies, this white tiger family. A genius like this would be a shoo-in for Holy Sun in the Spirit Hall, but they're too stuck in their ways to see it. Such a waste. Is this what a true genius looks like? Dai Mubai wondered. It's unbelievable how fast he's improving. Dai Mubai's relentless attacks continued, a tidal wave crashing down on Dai Yao. Dai Yao, barely thinking, defended purely on instinct. His wings beat constantly, boosting his speed and letting him adjust his posture to avoid Dai Mubai's killing blows. He had no chance to use Baji Blast or Explosive Step against Dai Mubai's airtight offense. They were at each other's throats. Dai Mubai grew increasingly anxious, his breathing rapid, his attacks becoming sloppy. He knew his mother wanted him to humiliate Dai Yao, but instead Dai Yao seemed to be getting better as the fight went on. This isn't working. Remembering his mother's instructions, Dai Mubai switched tactics, knocking Dai Yao back. His expression turned fierce. He stomped his feet and charged, throwing punches with both fists. He abandoned all defense, willing to trade blows to land a decisive strike. Seeing the change in Dai Mubai, Dai Yao saw his chance. His eyes flashed. This was it. Dai Mubai wanted to trade hits. Fine, as the saying goes, when you meet on a narrow road, the brave wins. He couldn't win without the guts to stand his ground. Finally, he had an opportunity to use Baji Blast. He had hoped to use it in conjunction with Explosive Step, but Dai Mubai's relentless attack had given him no opening. As Dai Yao channeled soul power into his hands, a gust of wind swept the stage, ruffling the audience's clothes. Dai Yao's right hand swelled. The martial soul possession turned it into a granite-like weapon, hard and powerful. A vortex of air spiraled around it. What's His Highness doing? What kind of soul skill is that? Thought the crowd buzzed, shocked by the sight. The fourth prince was unleashing something powerful. The fifth elder and Bishop Ferdinand both leaped to their feet, leaning over the railing for a better view. They exchanged shocked glances. Self-created soul skill. Their voices trembled. Soul skills in Douluo continent were either gained from soul rings or soul bones obtained by hunting soul beasts, or they were self-created. Most soul masters relied on soul beasts for their skills. Even the powerful titled doyos usually had skills of the first type. Self-created soul skills were incredibly rare. The top sect in the world, the Haotian sect, only had one, the chaotic cloak hammer technique. The White Tiger clan had none. Even those Douluo-level experts were considered geniuses, but they didn't have their own skills. That showed how hard it was to develop a self-created soul skill, and now, they were seeing it, a 6-year-old child, performing a self-created soul skill. It defied everything they knew. We have talented people in the spirit hall, but none like this. If only he were one of us. Bishop Ferdinand stared at Dai Yao, wishing he wasn't part of the Star Luo royal family so he could join the spirit hall. It was a crying shame. This child's potential is too great. If he grows up, he'll be a major threat to us. We have to nip this in the bud. He condemned Dai Yao in his heart. Chapter 17 The End. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Creak, creak, the queen seethed, her beautiful face twisting into a mask of rage as she glared at Dai Yao. The fifth elder had initially been thrilled. Dai Yao's self-created soul skill seemed to offer a real chance at victory, maybe even a shot at the throne. Imagine such a genius leading the Qinglian Empire. But then he saw the queen's expression, and a dark cloud settled over his optimism. That woman is definitely plotting something. If she thinks she can hurt Dai Yao, she'll have to deal with my bloodthirsty demon tiger first. In his youth, the fifth elder had traveled widely and gained a reputation, and the nickname, Bloodthirsty Tiger. The momentum in the arena had completely shifted. Dai Mubai had also witnessed Dai Yao's soul skill. He was astonished by Dai Yao, but was no longer surprised. So, my earlier strategy prevented him from using this skill. The change in formation gave him the opening he needed. This realization fueled Dai Mubai's frustration. Is that a soul skill you created? Yes, Dai Yao replied, still focusing on building his energy. Without Qinglian, there'd be no Bajibang. And without Dai Yao's spark of genius, there'd be no Baji collapse. It was, in every sense, his own creation. Then let's see what it can do, Dai Mubai said, stepping forward to meet the challenge head-on. Okay, Dai Yao responded. Dai Mubai braced himself, his body like a bowstring pulled taut, then unleashed in a powerful strike towards Dai Yao. At the same moment, Baji Bing reached full charge. The collision was like lightning striking earth. A white shield enveloped Dai Mubai, and a confident smirk played across his lips. They were using similar soul skills, but Dai Yao's was offensive, while his was purely defensive. If his white tiger protective barrier could just withstand Dai Yao's attack, his own charged punch would land directly, leaving Dai Yao no chance to defend himself this time. Dai Yao couldn't possibly use his first soul skill while performing Baji Bang. A level 1 soul master simply couldn't manage both at once. Baji Bang slammed into the shield, creating a spiderweb of cracks, but ultimately failing to break through. The force of Baji Bang was legendary, capable of shattering even the 700-year-old Xian water turtle's shield, yet it couldn't break Dai Mubai's white tiger protective barrier. It showed the immense effort that Dai Mubai put into his first soul skill. The moment the barrier held, Dai Yao knew he was in trouble. Dai Mubai's smirk widened. He raised his huge tiger palm, ready to deliver the final blow. Danger. Dai Yao's heart pounded, the scene blurring before his eyes. Explosive step. He channeled his soul power into his legs, pushing himself to the limit to activate his second self-created soul skill. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth as his body screamed in protest, but he fought through the pain, his expression fierce. Dai Mubai's eyes widened in disbelief. Dai Yao had vanished. The punch that was supposed to seal his victory struck empty air. His face froze in stunned confusion. Dai Yao was incredibly fast when he used explosive step. Dai Mubai's attack missed and he attacked before Dai Yao hit the ground. Baji collapse. Dai Yao's palm slammed into Dai Mubai's abdomen. This time, Baji Beng wasn't as fully charged, sacrificing power for speed. Dai Mubai's shock morphed into agony. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and went flying backwards like a cannonball. He crashed into the wall beneath the stands with a thud, then slumped to the ground, defeated. It had all happened in the blink of an eye. Most of the audience hadn't even registered what was happening before the third prince was sent crashing to the ground. Silence fell over the arena, broken only by the sudden eruption of cheers, some joyful, others bitter, as disappointed spectators began to file out. Someone leaped from the stands, rushed to Dai Yao, and hoisted him onto their shoulders, celebrating the shared blood that united them. Dai Mubai, still lying on the ground, turned his head to stare at Dai Yao, his eyes filled with envy. He'd been so close to victory. He'd planned to simply drain Dai Yao's soul power, waiting for him to collapse from exhaustion, but he'd let his mother's instructions for a swift victory cloud his judgment, giving Dai Yao the opening he needed to unleash his soul's skill. The thought filled him with bitterness. Bishop Ferdinand and the fifth elder exchanged glances from the high platform, both equally stunned. A mere novice soul master had defeated a level 17 opponent. That kid actually pulled off an upset, the fifth elder said with obvious pleasure. Bishop Ferdinand turned to the queen with a subtly malicious smile. Your Majesty, your fourth prince is truly gifted. Give him a few years, and even the eldest prince won't stand a chance, will he? That he was clearly trying to provoke the queen, hoping to goad her into acting against Dai Yao. The queen's chest heaved with barely suppressed fury. She was bitterly disappointed in Dai Mubai. She'd come to witness a decisive victory, not a humiliating defeat. Not only had she failed to exact her revenge, she'd ended up losing face in the process. She gathered her skirts and cast one final, emotionless glance at Dai Mubai lying on the ground. Then, she swept out of the arena, followed by her entourage of ladies-in-waiting. The fifth elder stepped in front of Bishop Ferdinand, blocking his path. What do you want? The fifth elder's voice was cold, his fiery golden hair radiating an aura of menace. He understood the bishop's game. He wanted Dai Yao dead. Nothing, just a joke, Bishop Ferdinand stammered, beads of sweat trickling down his plump face. He'd heard tales of the bloodthirsty demon tiger. He was a madman, completely unrestrained. It was best to avoid provoking him unless absolutely necessary. He was the bishop of the spirit hall, but he had started the provocation, so the other party may retaliate. See that you remember it, the fifth elder said with a snort. Dai Yao wins this duel. The referee announced. From that moment on, everyone knew that the third prince had lost his chance to contend for the throne. His fate now rested in the hands of the next emperor. In contrast to Dai Mubai, the fourth prince, Dai Yao, had become a rising star, although he was not comparable to the eldest and second prince. After being released by the crowd, Dai Yao went to Dai Mubai and helped him to his feet. In truth, he admired Dai Mubai for his integrity in battle, but their differing positions meant they were destined to remain rivals, not friends. Dai Mubai gave Dai Yao a complicated look, then turned and walked away with the queen. Chapter 18 Dai Mubai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 18 Dai Mubai. Royal Palace, Civet Palace. The Civet Palace is traditionally the queen's residence. Named for the netherworld civet spirit, possessed by generations of queens from the Zhu family. Following his return from the royal arena, the queen, in a towering rage, laid waste to the civet palace. What's wrong, mother? The eldest prince inquired. The queen's been livid since the third prince lost to the fourth. He's been kneeling for hours. Your Highness, please go and reason with her. She'll listen to you. A palace maid said anxiously. Entering the palace, Davis immediately saw Dai Mubai kneeling on the ground, head bowed. Long golden hair obscured his face, hiding his expression. A bloody mark stained his forehead, the souvenir of a cup thrown by the queen. Useless trash. Davis said, his voice dripping with disdain. Level 17, defeated by someone who just got their first spirit ring. Pathetic. Dai Mubai remained silent, head bowed. Mother, why bother with this loser? So he lost. Does that automatically hand that scoundrel the throne? I'll take care of that problem myself. Davis said with certainty. Am I angry he lost? I'm angry at myself for ever believing in this good-for-nothing. Dai Mubai flinched at her words, a sob escaping him as tears hit the floor. Even his defeat to Dai Yao hadn't caused him such pain. He'd simply acknowledged a superior opponent. But his own mother's condemnation was unbearable. Perhaps sensing his distress, neither Davis nor the queen offered a word of comfort. This was the Qingluo royal family, a place devoid of sentiment. Only the winner takes all. Every star Luo prince attends the Royal Academy. I'll teach him a lesson when he gets there. Davis said, attempting to reassure her. The queen sighed, voicing her concern. As much as I despise that scoundrel, his talent is undeniable, perhaps exceeding yours. With Dai Hengyu watching over him at the academy, it won't be easy. Dai Hengyu was a royal prince and the vice president of the Star Luo Royal Academy, a key figure in the royal family's control of the institution. Besides, given time, he'll become a serious threat. With your brother already eyeing the throne, their alliance would make things very difficult. Don't worry, mother. I'm not concerned about my brother, and certainly not about that brat Dai Yao. Davis exuded confidence. In his eyes, Dai Yao was simply not a worthy contender. At level 25, the second prince was a minor threat, but Dai Yao, who only recently became a soul master, was nothing. You're not only the queen, but also an elder of the Zhu family. Given Zhu Zhuqing is a member of the family, couldn't you? Davis suggested. Unlike the more honorable Dai Mubai, Davis was willing to use any means to achieve his ends. He wouldn't hesitate to crush Dai Yao. Winning was all that mattered. The queen's eyes lit up at Davis's suggestion. Bring Zhu Zhuqing to me. She commanded the maid. She then shot Dai Mubai a disgusted look. Get out of my sight, you useless piece of garbage. Do you want to keep being an eyesore? Dai Mubai stood, turning away, a broken man. The vitality he had shown during the duel was gone. Despite being only 9 years old, looking at the moon, he felt a deep sadness, tears streaming down his face. Dai Yao couldn't afford to lose, neither could he. Dai Yao's youth would excuse his defeat, but his own would only make him a laughingstock. In the fight for the throne, there were no silver medals. Failure meant death. He'd never known a mother's love. The proud look on her face when praising his brother had always filled him with envy. Like any child, he craved his parents' approval. In the Qingluo royal family, that was a fantasy. Leaving the civic palace, head hung in shame, he seemed years older than his age. After Dai Mubai left, Zhu Zhuqing was brought to the civic palace. The queen seized Zhu Zhuqing's chin, saying coldly, such a pretty thing. What a waste to give her to that scoundrel. Zhu Zhuqing winced at her touch, but dared not resist. I hear you desire freedom, an escape from the Zhu family's fate. The queen inquired. The words held irresistible allure. For the first time, hope flickered in Zhu Zhuqing's icy expression. I can grant you that. If you do something for me, you'll be free, no longer a pawn. What do you say? A few days later, the cold palace, Dai Yao tossed off his ornate robe and collapsed on his bed, exhausted. This is brutal, he sighed. He'd been running non-stop for days. Winning the duel unleashed a torrent of obligations. First, a visit to the White Tiger Mountains Ancestral Hall to meet with the elders. Then, the endless, complicated inheritance ceremony, which drained his energy and strength. Someone had suggested constructing a new palace for him, but he refused, preferring the familiar cold palace. Of course, it had been renovated and now looked completely different. He would soon be leaving for the Star Luo Royal Academy, so there was no need to build a prince's mansion. Besides, he wouldn't let a life of luxury corrupt his character. Okay, the truth. He was broke and couldn't afford the upkeep of a prince's mansion. The royal treasury allocated funds, but it was a pittance compared to what it took to maintain a prince's household. Finally, it was all over. His engagement was about to be formalized. The engagement was simple, with only a few key relatives required as witnesses. Zhu Zhuqing's family was the queen. Since Dai Yao's mother had passed, and Emperor Qingluo wasn't concerned about him, the fifth elder would serve as his family representative. He couldn't help but chuckle, remembering the queen's thunderous expression at the engagement banquet. In a few days, Zhu Zhuqing would arrive at the cold palace. P.S. Volume 1 is finally done. Writing it chapter by chapter, I realized my shortcomings. The duel with Dai Mubai was supposed to be a climax, but due to my lack of experience, it didn't land the way I wanted. Also, the protagonist's personality began to waver in chapter 2, but it wasn't too bad, and I can still fix it. I've finished writing volume 1, and I've learned a lot. I hope volume 2 will be better. Thanks to all the readers, especially those who have been with me since the beginning. Sincere thanks to you all. Also, I'm happy to say I got the website shortcut today. I'll officially become a contracted author after review. Don't worry about me stopping or anything. This is my first book, and it will be at least 500,000 words. Only by writing 500,000 words can I learn the basics of novel writing, and I chose to publish the book directly from the start. This behavior is called rushing, and I will be alone for a long time. When Spring Breeze opens the book, you will be mentally prepared to endure loneliness for a long time, so you don't have to worry about cutting the book. Finally, I would like to ask for recommendation votes and follow-up reading. Thank you again. Chapter 19 Qinglian Strangeness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 19, Qinglian's Oddities. Could Zhu Zhuqing really become my wife? The thought felt surreal to Dai Yao. Not long ago, he was just fighting to survive. Now he was not only a prince but was about to marry a knockout. A grin tugged at the corners of his mouth. He wiped away a stray bit of saliva. He still had things to do. The duel a few days earlier gave him the shivers. If Dai Mubai hadn't been so desperate to win, he might have lost. I'm still short on experience. Once I get to the academy, I need to rack up more, Dai Yao decided. Then there was his second martial soul, Qinglian. Qinglian gave Dai Yao a sinking feeling. When he got his first soul ring recently, Qinglian forcibly absorbed the 700-year-old ring and almost killed him. Though Qinglian helped him pull it off, the pain was seared into his memory. Focusing, he gathered his soul power. A green lotus appeared in his palm. Huh? Dai Yao stared, eyes wide. What the heck? He stammered, shocked. A yellow soul ring had materialized on the green lotus. Hold up, why's there a soul ring on Qinglian? I didn't attach one. Dai Yao puzzled over it, coming up empty. There was only the Xian Shui turtle's soul ring, no other beasts killed, Dai Yao mused, stroking his chin. Then, a disbelieving thought hit him. Could Qinglian have created this soul ring herself? So, what's the point of having twin martial souls? That everyone knew the biggest perk of twin martial souls was that after maxing out the first soul ring, the second martial soul could add rings of at least 50,000 years. Dai Yao felt a little wrecked. The biggest advantage of twin martial souls was down the drain. No one could stomach that. Then he saw a way out. I'll add rings to Qinglian from now on. I'll stop training the White Tiger martial spirit and treat it as my second. Since I'm ditching the White Tiger martial spirit, I can't keep using the fourth prince identity. I'll go incognito and find a disguise, Dai Yao declared grimly. It sucks, though, that I already burned a soul ring slot on the White Tiger martial spirit. Looking at Qinglian, he felt a confusing mix of emotions. Alright, let's see what kind of skill this soul ring brings. He held out his right hand and poured soul power into it. Qinglian's first soul ring blazed to life. The green lotus kept growing, the soft stem hardened and straightened, the petals closed, and the shape became pointed at the tip and broader at the base, like a spearhead, with the surrounding lotus leaves becoming the spear's tassel. Using the first soul skill transformed Qinglian directly into the Qinglian spear. I wonder how strong it is, Dai Yao thought. Consideringly, he headed to the back of Len Gong's house. The area was huge, paved with stone slabs half a foot thick, said to be from the far north and tough enough to block a soul lord's full-force attack. The entire palace foundation was built on these slabs. In the corner, there were still some leftover slabs. He'd once trained Bajibeng there, and even with all his power, he hadn't been able to make a dent. Dai Yao gripped the spear with both hands, squatted slightly, arched his back to gather strength, and thrust the Qinglian spear forward. The green lotus spear hit the stone slab and plunged straight in like cutting through butter, meeting zero resistance. This was a slab that could take a soul lord's pounding, yet the green lotus spear had pierced it with ease. Wait, it's not cutting through butter. The green lotus spear is breaking down the slab's material. That's why there's no resistance. Dai Yao realized, shocked, decompose matter, what a terrifying ability. This was power on a whole other level. One strike, and matter dissolved into nothingness. In the Douluo world, maybe only gods had that kind of ability. Dai Yao felt less joy and more fear. He'd worried that revealing his twin martial souls would make him a target for assassination, but he hadn't expected Qinglian's first soul skill to tap into divine power. If people found out, he wouldn't be hunted by humans, but by gods. Gods couldn't be directly killed in the Douluo world, but their mouthpieces could, like Bo Saishi, the sea god's representative, Qian Dao Lu, the angel god's speaker, and Tang Chen, Peak Douluo, and the Azura god's heir. Cold sweat dripped down Dai Yao's face. The thought of this power being exposed terrified him. It would truly be a no-win situation. In the prehistoric novel, after Pangu created the world, the chaotic green lotus was suppressed by heaven and split into treasures, the roots becoming the god-killing spear. This dominating power fits the god-killing spear. Could this weapon be the real deal, and is Qinglian actually the Chaos Qinglian? Dai Yao wondered, excited. He'd given Qinglian the name Chaos Qinglian to sound cooler, but now the weirdness was stacking up. Maybe his Qinglian was the genuine article. Whoa, Dai Yao sucked in a breath of cold air. Lost in his thoughts, a sudden weakness washed over him. He collapsed, spitting out a mouthful of blood. He gasped, as if he'd been in a brutal fight and his energy was spent. The god-killing spear dissolved into starlight and vanished. He was too weak to stand. He crawled back to the house, dragged himself to the bed, and using it for leverage, strained to heave his body onto it. Is this the fallout from using Chaos Qinglian's first soul skill? It's killer. The experience of losing his strength and burning out his mind scared him witless. The side effects are too much. I have to be careful using the god-killing spear, or I'll be defenseless after one shot. But he couldn't deny how strong the skill was. It attacked from a fundamental level, and could be his trump card. His body was weaker than ever, and his eyes kept drooping with sleep, but his heart was uneasy. If someone wanted him dead, he wouldn't stand a chance. Gritting his teeth, he sat up and started to meditate, as if responding to his efforts. The chaotic green lotus in his mind shed green light, nourishing his depleted mental power, and somewhere he didn't notice, the chaos green lotus silently opened a petal. Time flew, and Dai Yao spent a day training. He'd regained most of his strength and felt much better. Just then, knock, 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 someone was at the door. Chapter 20 Zhu Zhuqing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 20 Zhu Zhuqing. Who is it? Dai Yao wondered who would be visiting so late. Since the duel, some people had offered their support, but his third uncle, Dai Hengyu, warned him that they were just bandwagoners. Accepting their allegiance would only lead to them exploiting his name as the fourth prince to bully people and tarnish his reputation, so, he turned them all down flat. He reached the courtyard. The moon was bright, the stars were scattered, and patches of snow still clung to the ground. Opening the door, he was met with a beautiful sight. A woman stood before him, her delicate face tilted slightly upwards. She was shorter than him, but her slender figure was already apparent. Her skin was fair and rosy, her nose straight, and her lips subtly curved. Her crystal-clear eyes held a chilling coldness. The bright moonlight illuminated her cascade of long hair, making her look ethereal. Zhu Zhuqing. Dai Yao asked, surprised. Their engagement had been arranged recently, and today was supposed to be the day she came to fulfill it. The maid whispered to Zhu Zhuqing, fourth imperial concubine, this is His Highness the Fourth Prince. She glanced at Dai Yao and slowly backed away. If your highnesses have no further need of me, I'll take my leave. Go ahead, Dai Yao said to the maid, noticing Zhu Zhuqing hadn't spoken. He coughed, feeling a bit awkward. He led the way, Zhu Zhuqing followed, and the only sound was their footsteps crunching on the frozen snow in the silent palace. Once inside, Zhu Zhuqing remained quiet, creating a stiff atmosphere. It was like a first date with nothing to say. Zhu Zhuqing was naturally reserved and didn't talk much. And Dai Yao was at a loss. In his past life, he'd been an average guy who'd never even held a girl's hand. Just sitting next to such a beautiful woman was a feat in itself. He made tea, but still couldn't think of anything to say. Zhu Zhuqing didn't offer anything either, intensifying the awkwardness. Dai Yao felt extremely nervous. Talking to this girl was scarier than fighting Dai Mubai. He gritted his teeth and stammered, "Your name is Zhu Zhuqing. Can I call you Zhuqing?" Zhu Zhuqing nodded, staring at him with wide, bright eyes. Dai Yao decided to go for broke, speaking more confidently. "I'm Dai Yao, 6 years old. My mother sadly passed away on the day I was born. I don't have the kind of powerful family connections that Dai Mubai does, so I can't promise you a life of luxury. The fifth elder said that it is the fate of every prince to be engaged to a girl from the Zhu family. I just don't know if you're even willing." Zhu Zhuqing remained silent, her expression complex. Seeing her face, Dai Yao understood that, like with many arranged matches, they weren't exactly seeing eye to eye. He sighed inwardly, turning to say, "I'll have a room prepared for you for the night." The instant he turned, a chilling intent shot towards his neck. Alarm bells went off in his head. Reacting without thinking, Dai Yao used his explosive step, ducked low, and rolled forward. Clang. The attack missed its mark. Dai Yao looked back to see Zhu Zhuqing already in her spirit-possessed state. Her body was like a civet cat, low to the ground, one hand gripping a blade in attack mode. He said in disbelief, "You're trying to kill me?" That if he hadn't reacted so quickly, he'd be in pieces. A surge of anger roared through him. His blood surged, his eyes turned bloodshot, his face became fierce, and his voice was as cold as the deepest hell. You actually want to kill me?" He'd spent his life in the shadow of the queen, constantly living in fear. Now, he had awakened his twin martial souls, become the fourth prince, won the duel, and was betrothed to Zhu Zhuqing. A bright future seemed to be within his reach, but it was still being overshadowed by the queen. He'd imagined that he and Zhu Zhuqing could support each other, relying on each other to navigate the challenges ahead. He'd even planned to have an open conversation with her, hoping to break down any barriers, but instead, her first instinct was to kill him. He was offering sincerity, but it was being thrown back in his face. Instantly, he summoned his spirit and, using his explosive steps, grabbed Zhu Zhuqing. Zhu Zhuqing hadn't acquired a soul ring yet, so she was no match for Dai Yao. His spirit power suppressed her, especially in the confined space. In just a few moves, Dai Yao broke through all of Zhu Zhuqing's attacks. He grabbed her slender neck with one hand. "Tell me, why do you want to kill me?" Dai Yao's voice was icy. Zhu Zhuqing was lifted off the ground, her neck squeezed so tightly she couldn't speak. Still not talking, Zhu Zhuqing grabbed his hand with both of hers, saying nothing, only staring at him. Tears welled in her eyes and streamed down her face. Dai Yao sighed, setting Zhu Zhuqing down. "Go. I'll explain the engagement to the Council of Elders." Zhu Zhuqing looked at him in disbelief, not expecting him to let her go. She walked towards the door. Reaching it, she hesitated, a complicated look on her face. Then she turned and came back inside. Dai Yao was still reeling from the attack. After all, it was Zhu Zhuqing. With more ruthlessness, he could have kept her by his side. But thinking about her attempt on his life, he chose to let her go. Hearing her footsteps and seeing her return, Dai Yao asked, surprised, "Why are you back?" Zhu Zhuqing avoided his eyes as she explained, "I'm sorry, Dai Yao. The queen came to me yesterday and said that if I killed you, I'd be free." "Free? Free from what?" "The queen promised me I could break the engagement. I wouldn't have to marry any prince or be part of the brutal competition for the throne." Dai Yao scoffed inwardly. She was so naive if she thought killing him would change her fate. Killing a prince would guarantee her own death, but then, something clicked in his mind. This was an opportunity. He calmly pulled back his shirt, exposing his chest. Pointing to his heart, he said, "Just stab me here, an inch deep, and you'll be free." "So, are you going to do it?" Dai Yao's tone was calm, as if discussing something trivial. But inside, he was a nervous wreck. He was gambling with his life. Zhu Zhuqing looked horrified and stepped back. "I'm giving you two choices. You can either kill me now and pursue your own freedom, or you can honor the engagement. From now on, we'll support each other and face the future together," Dai Yao said.